Hi everyone, this is Zach Bornheimer, President and CEO of Zysis. I'm here today to give you a demonstration of my iTunes library, music, media, all that kind of good stuff, and how I keep it organized. I won't be showing you my movies, but I'll be showing you my music, iTunes U, applications, downloads, what is going on with this, and my playlists. I'll be explaining why I have 2,344 items downloading, how I keep my 70 gigs of music organized, and what other tips and tricks I have for keeping your iTunes library in tip-top shape. P.S. It includes some really cool software that I think you guys will love. Alright, so let's get started. Zysis, everything tech. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to discuss with you guys is the actual organization of music albums. So the way I do it is I typically import an entire album at once. I usually try and stay away from individual songs if I can get the whole album, because that way I can get a full understanding of what the music is trying to say. So you can see I have skips, tracks, bit rates. I have quite a bit of unknown album music, and that's because these aren't published albums. So like this one is Unnamed Album by Adam Donahue. I have all of these unnamed tracks because they're not from a published album. But most of my music has album covers, or album art rather. And the reason is because two things. One, of the software I use, and two is the organization method I use. Before we continue, I'd like to point out my music is mostly 256-bit. That's why all of this stuff is downloading up here. I have 2,330 some odd downloads that I'm currently downloading, and it's to replace a lot of my 64 kbps music. All of these songs here that are less than 256-bit will either be re-downloaded, can't be re-downloaded, or aren't available for re-download through the iTunes Match database. So I do have iTunes Match going on right now. That's what these 2,000 some odd downloads are doing. So that's a really interesting, very, very cool way of cleaning up your music. So what I did for this, for iTunes Match, is I created a simple playlist called iCloud Redownload, and it had the following rules. The bitrate is less than 257 kbps. The media kind is music, and then if you hold down the Option key and hit plus, it'll give you a conditional playlist requirement. So that's what I did here, and I said any of the following are true: iCloud status is matched, or iCloud status is purchased. And I have live updating, meaning it'll show me all of the songs that I'm re-downloading, or that are getting re-downloaded, that kind of thing. And it'll be able to re-download all of these songs. And I have, as you can see here, 5,256 songs that it's currently re-downloading. One downside of doing this, though, is as you can't really tell, I don't know if you can tell from over there, but I wasn't touching my trackpad while it was scrolling down. It's a little laggy when it's downloading lots and lots of music. So that's the first thing. iTunes Match is something I really think if you have more than 1,000 songs, you might want to invest in. It's $24.99 for 1 year, and you get it over in this area over here where it says Store. There would be an option for you to say iTunes Match. It's a brilliant piece of software that if you have an iPhone, you'll love. I have 71 gigabytes of music, and as you can imagine, that doesn't all fit on an iPod, or rather an iPhone or an iPod Touch, because 71 gigs of music. So, the brilliant part about this software is that if you are connected to the internet, you can stream your music, all 71 gigabytes of it, off your iPhone. And that is a wonderful thing. For music not purchased through iTunes, you have 25,000 songs. of a maximum capacity. If you have over 25,000 songs, I believe there's a workaround. I'll post a link to that in the blog post. But there are lots and lots of things to do with iTunes Match. Probably the most useful is to re-download your poor quality music. All of these songs I have here that are 256 kbps, most of them were 64. And the reason why they were 64 is because my first iPod was a 2 gigabyte iPod Nano, the first generation. And I had about 3 gigabytes of songs, so I kept compressing it so that way it would all fit on my iPod, because I had the old iPod headphones where you couldn't tell the difference between 64 and 128 kbps. So now I have Bose Quiet Comfort 15s, and you can easily tell. So I'm re-downloading all of that music. Another really interesting thing is iCloud won't let you re-download music that is under 92 kbps. You get around this by creating another playlist, another smart playlist, calling it, let's say, re-download. I believe I've deleted mine, but I can show you how to do it. You want to create a new smart playlist, and we want to select the bit rate is less than 92. And by doing that, we can edit that one more time and add a little more specifications to this. Media kind is music. So that way it'll then select all your music that doesn't fit in that category. What you would do then is select it all using either Command A or Control A, depending on your platform. Right click and say convert to AAC. What that does, it'll create a larger version of the music as if it were a really high bit rate, and that'll reconvert the bit rate to 92 or higher, depending on what you're going for. It won't get you the original data back, so it'll still sound the same, but it'll trick iTunes Cloud into thinking that you have 92-bit or higher music. And that's what I did with over 1,000, 2,000 songs. And that was a really useful thing, because now I'm getting these old songs that I had at really good quality sound. So as you can notice here, these track numbers, it says 1 of 7, 4 of 11, and most of them are properly labeled. But then you look at something like this, and it's the Jazz Sessions with Mark Turner. Solos of Jazz Sessions is a Mark Turner recording. So what software I use for organizing the ID3 tags is I launch something called TuneUp. And this is by TuneUp Media, and it's a great piece of software. What it'll do is it will allow you to clean up your ID3 tags. It will literally reassess, using the Gracenote database for iTunes, the ID3 tags for music, including album art, track name, track number, and anything like that, all of that basic information. So you can notice I don't have any artwork for this anymore. So using TuneUp, I'll be able to get everything fixed here. Let me first make this no rating. I accidentally did that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this one song into here. Probably need to convert it to an AAC file first. Actually, let me show you a different example. Let's go with a high quality audio piece here that I didn't have to re-download, because that one's still re-downloading. As you can see here, these are off the album Snow Makes Things Perfect by Asfandyar Khan. I believe I butchered that name. You drag in the music, and it's going to analyze them with the Gracenote library. And hopefully, it'll be able to identify the entire album here. It'll then update the ID3 tags. No. That's a very interesting fact. It works sometimes, doesn't work all the time. We can go with just for an example, you can go with one of these songs. Let's just go with this John Coltrane thing, the album Dakar. And there it is. There's all the information, the album artwork, the tags. It works for more popular albums, which is very good, because if you have things filled of music, then you're probably going to have some dirty tracks, meaning, like, I'll show you with this. Train Sonic, okay? We remember all of that information. I'm now going to delete all of this information here. We're going to delete it all. Probably, actually, I don't think it'll allow me to do that. Just put in that. Now we're just going to find it. So I forgot what I typed in. SKADL. It's going to resync with the iTunes database. And what it's going to allow me to do is get my ID3 tracks back. Stellar Regions. Train Sonic. I have all the ID3 tags back. Now I click Save All. And it has two levels of matching. It has confirmed, it's absolutely sure about it, and it's pretty sure, which is what you saw. Sometimes it'll also have I have no idea, which is basically what you saw in the first album that I tried to do. This Snow Makes Things Perfect. So that's just one thing I use when cleaning up my dirty tracks. So if I bought an album that was maybe not so clean when I got it, like I bought it from a service and that service didn't have the proper ID3 tags, or I accidentally deleted them, or something along those lines, TuneUp will fix that. And I know a lot of people in college and in the real world get music from other people or from torrented sites. One of the really cool things is you can use this TuneUp service to fix all the tags and the track numbers off those recordings. So that way you have good-looking music. Another really good thing is iTunes Match will allow you to download and re-download torrented music you got from friends, music you got maybe legally, illegally, and it will make your music collection legal. That's a very useful thing. The other tool I use, can't find it. The other tool I use is Deduper, which is an application that I find extremely useful. Or Dupin, sorry. It's called Dupin. My apologies. It's a very, very powerful application that'll scan your music database. And it will allow you to get rid of duplicates. You probably want to do this before doing iTunes Match, because iTunes Match is a built-in thing that's very similar. This is really good for large-scale, very large-scale libraries, because this will allow you to have an automatic selection process, maybe based on bitrate or sample number or kind, meaning it's an AAC or all that kind of stuff. You have all sorts of criteria. You could choose what music you want to keep, what music you want to see, and you want to have kept in your library, because sometimes you'll have two duplicate songs. It'll then automatically be able to tell you which one to keep based on certain criteria. So now what we're going to do is we are going to, and this is I believe a $15 purchase by Doug Adams. This is by Doug Adams. So what you can do is then you go to Filter Controls, and you want to select the keeper in the dupe group by, I choose the highest bitrate. Filter, yes. It's now filtering selection by the highest bitrate, and it'll leave you with one copy of each song after you click select, or you then select the tools and then purge, that will get rid of all the duplicates. It'll only keep the stuff that is checked. And that's a very good little tool. So then the next thing we want to cover are playlists. I have a couple systems. I have a couple specific albums and playlists that I make, which is fine. Do that as you wish. But some of the smart ones I do is the iCloud redownload, my top rated. So if I rate songs, which I used to, but after I kept editing the tags and manually and resetting all of the track information, I kept accidentally resetting all my ratings. One of the cool things about iTunes Match is if you rate something on your iPhone, it'll automatically be rated on your Mac or your PC without having to sync. So protected AAC, I have one, so that way I'm aware of what's going on with transfers and protection. Like for this one, for example, this is a purchased AAC file. It will most likely be downloaded again as a matched AAC file, so that would mean that it would not have DRM. I have a purchased one, which I personally use eMusic to download all my music. So this playlist contains eMusic and purchased, and also Amazon stuff, because occasionally I'll buy some Amazon songs. So it'll populate with Amazon, eMusic, and my iTunes purchased music. And it will only contain music. Recently added is good, which I believe that's a default one. Date added is in the last 2 weeks. MediaKind is not podcast. And then you have recently played, which is a last played in the last 2 weeks. MediaKind is not podcast. Then I have a personal playlist called Some Form of Jazz. So the genre contains jazz. I used to categorize my music much more of what kind of jazz: smooth jazz, straight ahead jazz, fusion jazz, modern jazz, bebop jazz, Latin jazz, cool jazz. But TuneUp does a lot of that for me now. And I just don't really see a point in categorizing it anymore. Top 25 most played, I know that one's still part of that. And then I have my TuneUp songs that I still have to send through TuneUp. And TuneUp on its completion will add a little comment right down here that'll say clean by TuneUp. Then you have your regular playlists. I also have a genres playlist folder where I have audiobooks, classical music, jazz, movies, music, not smooth jazz, so if I'm in a straight ahead mood. Then I have an album called Smooth Jazz, which is very hard to work now if I don't have everything labeled as smooth jazz, because I have more than 395 smooth jazz songs. Then I have TV shows. Then I have a thing called players. So if you have a lot of music for a particular artist, or you really like a particular artist, this would be a great idea. So I have one for Adam Donahue, Bob Mincer, Michael Brecker, or I just call him Brecker because it also includes Brecker Brothers and that kind of thing. Jeff Kashiwa, 32 songs, Jerry Bergonzi 16, John Coltrane 510, Kirk Whalum 45, and Miles Davis 394. So if I'm in a mood for a particular player, I can then go into my players playlist and start playing the music I like. Then I also recommend stars, so that way you can have all of your music categorized by your enjoyment of it. So that's pretty much how I organize that. I have my iTunes U, which is categorized by how it is. I usually have it in the unplayed location, so that way I can see what I still have left to view here. Applications, I usually have in this thing here, and I update once a week or so. Downloads, it's downloading all sorts of music, which is very useful. So it'll probably take another 3 hours, 4 hours to download the rest of the music I have downloading. I have iTunes Genius working on here. Genius mixes are wonderful. I love Genius mixes. As a musician, sometimes you get into a rut where you listen to the same thing over and over, even though you have so much more music to listen to. And that happens to me a lot. I start listening to one thing over and over. So you can see if I go to my play counts, you can see how many times I listen to one thing. I have 216 for that one song alone, which is a smooth jazz song, which I use as my alarm clock. 151, 135, 121, 53, 31, 30, 30, 28, 28, 27. As you can see, I listen to songs multiple times. And sometimes it doesn't even count it, because you know how sometimes at the end of music it kind of fades out. I usually will end it maybe a second or two before it's actually over. So these play counts are not always 100% accurate. So those are just a couple things I recommend for keeping your iTunes library clean and nice. Let me go over them one more time really quickly for you. TuneUp. Great piece of software to organize your ID3 tags. Dupin by Doug Adams. It's a great piece of software to make sure you don't have a lot of duplicates. If you have a very large music library, the odds of you having duplicate tracks are very high. And finally, the last piece of external software I'd recommend would be iTunes Match, because you can re-download poor quality music at higher bit rates. If you have any illegal music in your library, you can make it legal. And in order to make it fully legal, you're going to want to go through the procedure of this. I'm going to just show you really quickly of how you'd re-download all your songs. You'd want to go select everything, hold down the Option key on Mac, or right-click after holding down the Alt key on Windows, and click Delete. After doing that, what will happen is it'll ask you if you want to delete all of the songs. You say yes. When it says remove from iCloud, you say no. Once that happens, you'll get little icons like this. Like this little cloud-based icon. This cloud download icon. And then you're going to select everything once again. Hold down the Option key, I believe. No, it's already downloading. That's why. There's one of two ways of doing it. I don't recall off the top of my head. It's either right-click and select download, or hold down the Option key, right-click, and select download. And that will download your music once again for you, which is a wonderful thing. Once you're done with that, you'll have all of your music in your trash. Do not delete your trash until you get all your music back. Once you have all your music, you delete your trash, open up Disk Utility. You're going to go to your hard drive. You're going to go to Erase. You're going to go to Erase Free Space. And you're going to always go to the most secure option of on Lion. That's 7 times. And that's what I'd really recommend. On Snow Leopard and Leopard, the the max option is 35. With modern hard drives, that's irrelevant. Just do 7. 7 times will prevent it from being recovered, because what that does, it writes random data, zeros and ones, all over your hard drive, all over the empty space, so it can't be seen. Because the way data removal works on computers is, imagine you just wrote a document and you wrote down to yourself where that document is. So let's say it's in your file cabinet. So you wrote down file cabinet, second folder, first page. And you wrote that down, and that's the only way you were able to access it. That's the only way you know where it is. Let's say you wanted to get rid of that file. The way that a computer works is it will delete that one page that said it's over here. So it'll delete your memory of where the file is, or the pointer to the file. And then if it needs space, it'll take that page and use the back of it. Basically, it'll basically write over the file once it needs to write over the file. Otherwise, it's still on your hard drive and it can be recovered. So if you did have illegal music and you wanted to fix that, you'd want to delete all of your music, re-download it using iTunes Match, and then empty your hard drive, then erase free space. So those are just a couple recommendations I have for keeping your iTunes library in nice, good order over here, because nobody likes a dirty library, because it's not really nice to look at, because you have all of these different album covers over here that if you see on mine, you have all different albums. And nobody likes to just see these right here, these. Oh, I don't have any album art covers. So that's what I'd recommend. TuneUp, Dupin, iTunes Match. This has been Zach Bornheimer, President and CEO of Zysys. Good luck.